Hi there guys, welcome back to the 8 points. So I just want to take some time today to have a brief run through of these books. This isn't a full review or anything like that, but what it is to give you a flavour of what these books are about and if you might like them, to buy them for yourself. The Tome of Champions, like last year's one, adds lots of new gameplay elements into Warcry. It's not a must-have, it's not a necessary purchase, but it does add a lot to the game. But these books here are somewhat of a game changer. So your specific warband that you're running, as long as it's not one of the Chaos specific Warcry warbands, there are significant changes to what you've got. All of your cards that you might already have, all of your stats will for the most part be the same, but things are different. So just to kind of give a flavour of what these books are, the first few pages are all the same. So we'll start with the Grand Alliance books first. So as you go through it, it starts off with some story-driven stuff about which Grand Alliance each book is for. Some more information generally about this book, how to use it, a rebalance or a relook at heroes and allies. So you can, unfortunately, if you own monsters and mercenaries, you can do away with almost everything in that book. Goes through monsters and thralls, so it lists the different ones available. So the Terrorgeist and the Zombie Dragon is just available to everything for death now. Looks at death thralls. So we've got fell bats, dire wolves, and bat swarm for that. And then it goes through the individual warbands. So lots of narrative stuff, then the warband itself. And it does it for all the different ones. So we've got Flesh Eater Courts, Legions of the Gash, the Night Haunt, Ossiarch Bone Reapers. And it's got all their background tables and all that kind of thing. And it gives us campaigns and challenges. So we've got new fated quests which are just for death. Actually a fair few of them. Spoils of Victory, tables, challenge battles. So far so good. So all of that stuff is interesting, all that stuff is very good. So you'll see from that, basically, it's very difficult to just provide a review for these books because it's not really about the books. A lot of the information is stuff we've already got, but it just expands on that. So review-wise, I'd say that if you play with any of this stuff, they're worth it. But what I will be reviewing going forward is I will be looking back at the individual warbands. So I'll be reviewing warbands from this book because they have changed. So unfortunately for me, I spent a hell of a lot of time in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks putting together a tiered system for each individual warband in Warcry, which is a really long process. And it was going to be my big push for January. And it still will be. I'll still be going through all that kind of stuff, and I'll be using this to do it, really. But for example, here's the best example I can give right now, because I haven't read through all of these books. But if we look at the Slaves to Darkness, for example, where are you? If you own the card pack for Slaves to Darkness, you'll notice that all of the cards you've got are represented. Sorry, all of the cards you've got, the stats haven't changed. But strangely, there's a couple of cards that just don't appear in this book. I'm not exactly sure why that is. And what I'll do is I'll address all that sort of thing when I'm reviewing the individual warbands. But yeah, there's 3 that aren't in there anymore. But then there's a whole lot more that's been added. Now, for example, Dark Oath Chieftain, the War Queen, Chaos Lord, all of these were in the Monsters and Mercenary books. But for them, at least, a lot of these stats have changed. Not massively, but a lot of these stats have certainly changed. We're also given some new units. So for example, a new leader is the Chaos Lord on Karkadrak. 310 points. You know, that's a beast of a model. And certainly from a unit perspective, we've never had anything of that size. In terms of sort of dominating space on the table, we've never had anything of that size before. Chaos Lords on Demonic Mounts. So yeah, you can see that a lot has changed. Going through lots and lots more units way beyond the cards that we had previously. So we had 12 cards in the first one. 3 of them haven't transferred over to here, but we've got 80, 25 in total now. Of course, knowing that this does include some of the stuff from Monsters and Mercenaries. But yeah, very, very cool. So I will be going back through all of these books. Oh, let me quickly show you something as well. So when you get to the Sentinels of Order book, obviously the Cities of Sigmar didn't feature in Warcry until White Dwarf. I forget what episode it was, but it was out about sort of 3 or 4 months ago. Whereas now, when we look at this Cities of Sigmar, there's lots and lots of different stuff. So we've got Living City warbands, Hammer Hall warbands, Greywater, Phoenicium, Hallowheart, Andalgard, and it's got all of their different models kind of played out here. It's massive, it's huge, there's so many of them.
45, no?
68 different available units. It's incredible. And then it adds in all of the other stuff. If there's one thing that hasn't been fleshed out really, which is disappointing, it's that in my opinion at least, the understrength Warcry original warbands, so the ones that have originated from Warband, there's no additional cards for them. So nothing's been added for them. So you're going to find out through this book how to add fighters from other warbands into those, which is going to help to bulk them up. But I was hoping for a little bit more. Obviously, it's got all of our Chaos allies here. Ogre Myrmidon, Thormod Crusher, and Mind Stealer Phalanx. Okay, so monsters and thralls for Chaos. We've got the Chimera, Slaughter Brutes, the Chaos Gorgon, Cygor, and Mutalith Vortex Beast. Oh, and a Hell Pit Abomination. Look at that ugly mofo. And then the Thralls, we've already had all of this from last year's Tome of Champions. Fury and Raptorix from the original Warcry box. And then the Chaos Warhounds, Chaos Spawn, and Razor Gores, which were introduced in last year's Tome of Champions. And I'll quickly go through those actually for all 4. So we've already done the death ones earlier. Look at the ones for destruction. So monsters and thralls, what have we got? Elgazar Gargants, Skitterstrand Anacronok, Skitterstrand Arachnarok, and a Dankhold Troggoth. That's awesome. And their thralls are Fellwater Troggoths and a Rockgut Troggoths. Okay, and then on the order side, we have got, in terms of monsters, we can add War Hydras, Charybdis, and Charybdis is those 2. and there are no thralls. Okay, so that's these books. So like I say, I'm going to spend a lot of time over the next sort of 5 or 6 weeks individually reviewing the warbands from these books. There's 39 in total. So I won't do them one book at a time. I'll kind of flip between the different ones. If anyone's got any specific order I want to do them in, certainly let me know in the comments. So if you've got a favourite warband you want me to review, let me know in the comments. And I'll prioritise the ones that you guys want first. Okay, so moving to the Tome of Champions 2020. So a full review of this will be coming up in about a week or so. I just want to spend enough time with it to actually know what I'm talking about. A lot of new stuff gets added in these Tome of Champions. Now, I've looked at a couple of reviews of the Tome of Champions, and the ones that I have seen are pretty rushed, to be fair. And I think that there is an urge as a reviewer to get these books and try and get content up as soon as possible, just to kind of beat the crowd and try and get views and all that kind of thing. However, for stuff like the Tome of Champions, specifically with last year, it added so much that I spent an extra week going through it, playing a few games and that kind of thing before I reviewed it. And that's what I'm going to have to do this time. Spend some more time with this book to really, really get into it and understand, you know, what is so special about it. But I'm just going to flick through it now. It's got our rules updates and things that have changed from there. Updates to campaign rules. And then our open play stuff. We've got new victory cards. I'll be making versions of these so I can print them out. It's got rules for pit fights, so that's using the dungeons, the dungeon terrain and that kind of thing from Catacombs. I've got a how to build your own catacomb board coming out very soon. That will be uploaded next week at some point. So this narrative play section, they've got Soroth Core, the Silent City. So this is a campaign which is run specific for this book. It's got a lot of narrative stuff in there, which is cool. And they've got quite a large sort of lore section about that. It's almost a little story in its own. So then you've got that campaign for Soroth Core. And again, we can see that it's got its own convergences and that kind of thing. Got what happens at the end of the campaign and obviously what comes next. Individual narrative battle stuff. Trial of Champions, similar to last year. And then we've got some stuff, so new fated quests. One of the things that I have seen people ask is that if you've got Tome of Champions 2019, do you need the update? I would say that if you play a lot of Warcry, then yeah, you do need it, especially if you've got Catacombs, which we'll get to in a minute. If you enjoy the fated quests and some of the stuff that comes on after standard campaigns, then I would say definitely take a look at this. So we've got fated quests. Where are we? So some of those do take place in Catacombs setting with the different boards as well. So if you haven't got the board pack, there's a few fated quests there for that. Now in some of these challenge battles, something that I really like, so there you go, you've got the Mega Gargant dude there. So there's rules for fighting that. It's also got information on wild fighters. So it says here, many of the dangers of the Bloodwind spoil from the packs of marauding tribesmen to savage monsters of dark legend. All make for terrible foes who attack with an instinctive ferocity. To overcome them is no easy feat. In the challenge battles in this book, 2 players and their warbands join forces to battle enemies controlled by the game. These enemy fighters are referred to as wild fighters, and the following rules explain how they are used in battle. I love that. I think that's really cool. It allows us to add some cooperative elements into Warcry. So more of these challenge battles. Those have become my favourite ways to play the game. since Tome of Champions 2019 came out. Okay, so then we go through all our artifacts and that kind of thing, and then we get something cool at the end as well. It's kind of a recap on what we've seen before. Obviously we've got pitched battles and that kind of thing. New hidden agendas. So again, what I do is from the core book and from the Tome of Champions 2019, I've printed out small cards for these. I just add them all together so as you know, they can be drawn almost from a pile. I like sort of introducing that into the game. A little bit more on escalation tournaments. I've never played one, but yeah, but at least it's there. Right, so the appendix. So we've got a full overview now of the roaming beasts. So that includes the wild cave creatures that we had previously. So these are from Tome of Champions 2019, as are the restless undead. So these have been added here. I'm not sure exactly which rules have changed, and I will cover it fully in the full review. But this to me is the sort of thing that I believe is added just so as you can ditch your last Tome of Champions book, because it's just replicating that information here. It also recovers setting up terrain. So if you don't have the terrain cards and that kind of thing, basically it's got a little terrain setup table which shows you how to set up a game if you don't have, you know, using the terrain you've already got. Now what I'll be doing is when I do the full review, I'll be creating my own cards for these so we don't have to carry books around all the time, and all that stuff will be made available to you as well. So if you subscribe, look out for that, and I'll show you how to get it when I do that video. There you go, setting up your own terrain deck. Some players may even wish to construct their own terrain deck to randomly draw from each battle. To do so, follow these steps. A terrain deck contains 36 cards or layouts. 18 of those layouts are roughly symmetrical and have the symmetrical rune mark. 18 are asymmetrical. To create a terrain deck, you do not need to create physical cards. Instead, you need to create 36 layouts with which to populate a D66 table. One way to do this is to sketch 36 layouts. Alternatively, you could set up a different terrain layout on the board and take a photograph of each one. Oh, that's a lot of work. Each layout with a unique number from 11 to 66 with no digit exceeding 6. Okay, so you can roll 2d6 and you can do it on the table. I don't know how many people are going to bother to do that. I'm kind of thinking that I might be one of them. But yeah, so that's it. And then you've got a Warcry tournament roster. So that is the general overview of these books. So like I say, full review for this coming up soon. Individual warband reviews coming up for these soon as well. And again, I've done reviews for the different warbands in the past. Those are now basically, they're out the window because, like you can see from Slaves to Darkness, there's so much more new stuff introduced. What I'll also do as well is when I do those, any cards that have been removed from the card packs out of this book, I'll report on what those are as well and give opinions as to why that's happened as well. But that's it for now. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. If you want to order any of these books from Goblin Games or Element Games, there's a link in the description. You can order that from and it will give me a very small kickback. It won't cost you a penny more, but it will really help me out. So thanks for watching, guys. Much appreciated. And I'll catch you later.